Is it Shamilla? Shamilla.
Shamilla, yeah.
Shamilla. Okay.
Yeah. It's like
John,
but with a SH.
Okay. Perfect.
And John,
Perfect.
and mine is John. Jean, not John.
Oh, it's John? Oh.
No, I'm joking.
Okay.
I wish I was that interesting, Steve. I'm not that interesting.
Well, mine's Steve, but there's a silent Q at the beginning. And that's just so don't even worry.
I would say Steve with the Q. So I'm glad you told me it's without the Q.
Most people do. I like to clarify that because it just gets awfully confusing.
It's really awkward.
No, John, Shamilla, Jaque, it is a pleasure to talk to you. Let me say, in all honesty, if Joy is a film, it's The Umbrella Man, and I loved it. It's phenomenal.
Thank you, man. That's so cool.
It really is. It's just so much fun. From top to you both are great, and the script is really fun and tight. John, I just want where'd the film come from? Let's start with you.
I wanted to I'd made a slice of life film called Bunny Chow, and I was really looking for a new challenge, and I wanted to do justice to one of my favorite genres, which is caper and heist. And then I wanted to set it in something that was universally accessible, which is a street carnival. And we have a fantastic street carnival with lots of history. And I just thought that would be a great fit. So I set about writing this about 15 years ago. And for some reason, nobody liked it. I thought I was going crazy. I was like, it's a beautiful community. It's a fun thing. It's entertaining, but it's also got some serious beats to it. Like, how can nobody like it? And the local funders, they hated it. I don't know if they just really hated Bunny Chow. They hated me because I had a lot of attitude when I was young. But, and the comedians I was with had a lot of attitude. But we got turned down all the time, and we couldn't get funding together. So it took forever, and it's grown from, when I look at that early script from like 2008, I'm like, thank God it took us this long to make the film.
I'm shocked that people weren't interested because the film is fun. And it's a lot of fun.
I thought I was going crazy. Like, what? I'm like, why are people not getting it? I don't understand. So weird.
Yeah. Shamilla, Jaque, just from your perspective, what has it excited you the most about being a part of the film?
I think just also the genre of the film is something that I've never explored in my career. The heist, the comedy heist, the cultural aspect, us shooting in the World Cup, us all coming from the same kind of background, us telling this incredible story that is pure entertainment, littered with some of the best music that just makes you want to move. What about this film does not make you want to be a part of it?
Yeah.
No, I also feel like it's got that, like, it's got international stakes. You know what I mean? Like, again, because of the genre, and then for it to be set in the context of something that is so specific, so local. It was a fantastic opportunity, and I think it plays out deliciously.
It really does. You mentioned, and forgive me if I'm saying the BoCap. BoCap.
That's cool. Yeah.
The BoCap community is very much its own character within the film, and seems to be so important to the storytelling. I was wondering what is it about the area, the life of the BoCap community that brings life to the film for you?
Well, I mean, that community is marginalized. I mean, even that's the old slave quarters. I mean, they were on the top of the hill. Those houses are really romanticized and look really beautiful now. But in the old days, they were the slaves were put up on that hill. They were like tiny little areas, and we don't want to see you. We want to be up on the hill. So for all that time, that community's kind of thrived on its own and escaped apartheid, firstly. And when District 6, which is a community which is very similar to the BoCap, was destroyed, a lot of the residents fled and hid in the Boerkaap. So I think that it's always held, it's always romanticized, and it survived apartheid because District 6 was pulled down, was bulldozed, and the Boerkaap was next. But thankfully to the Muslim community and the people in there, they were very clever in keeping the apartheid government at bay for long enough until in the 80s things changed, and then they just couldn't do what they'd done in the 60s and 70s. So I think it's the fact that it survived through all of that pressure also makes it very special, and it makes the people from that community very protective of that culture and that area. And so there's that, and unfortunately the people that own those houses are being tempted by big corporate business to sell off that property, and so there's gentrification is a big thing. But there's so many rules and a sense of humor about that community that's very specific to them, that it was just so beautiful to tell that story based in that community, because their music is unique, their sense of humor is unique, their sense of community and fighting for each other is just something that comes naturally. So I think it wasn't hard for us to it was very authentic that all those elements in the film are actually true.
And it's also it would be so beautiful if it was a historical story, if it was that this is what used to happen in the past. But there are still communities within Cape Town that are where, because it's prime land. There's it's beautiful. The tourists that want to be there, and when there's international money that comes into like the dollar speaks, and so there are locals who are being forced out of the land, and communities are needing to stand together to be able to literally fight them off. We worked a lot with there were a lot of people who live in that community, who were part of the film, part of the minstrels, part of the musicians. I was speaking to one gentleman who said he knows his history, and he's trying to teach his children the history, but it's not going to mean as much to them as what it meant to him. So he's put I don't know what you call it. He's put like a trust on the property where it has to stay in the family. They are not allowed, once he dies, they are not allowed to sell it, to be able to make sure that the legacy remains theirs. That even though the receivers of that history may not know the details of it, the land belongs to them, or at least what he's trying to do for his home is make sure that his kids don't get tempted, like John was saying, by the money.
See, it was interesting, so interesting to me in the film that the real villains, if you will, the real bad guys are the ones that are trying to, they talk about gentrification. We're going to rebuild this thing, and there's this clinging to no, this is our place, not I know they don't say this in the film, but don't drop a Starbucks on any corner. This sort of attitude, and I thought that was a fascinating aspect of the story. And now I see it's so rooted in the history, and as well, I had never heard of Second New Year.
Yeah.
Also, again, rooted in history. I thought that was so fascinating.
Terrible part of our history is that the colonial masters were having their revelry on the 1st of January, and they obviously didn't want to then have to clean up after themselves, so they wouldn't allow their slaves to have the day off on the 1st of January. They only allowed them one day off a year, and that was on the 2nd of January, so they could celebrate on the 2nd. So it was called the Tweede Nuwe Jaar. And then the minstrels, when they were emancipated, they celebrated on that day.
Wow. Yeah, it's wonderful. With that in mind, there's a line in the film that caught my attention. I wanted to get your opinion on it, see what you thought. But there's a line where one person says the only response to outrageous pain is outrageous love.
Yeah.
And it really sticks out to me, and especially as we sort of talk about the depth of the location in the film. But I was wondering, do you think that's correct? And if so, what does that mean?
Yeah, I think that everything that community had to deal with, the only way that they survived and the only way they got through it is through a strong sense of comedy and an idea that love will overcome, all kinds of drama that you have to go through and survive in your life. And if you live your life seeing the silver lining and seeing the love rather than the hate, that's the only way to get through that.
And it has to be true. Like that line has to be true. Otherwise, we're in trouble. You can get. Otherwise, it's so overwhelming. The hopelessness, the size of the obstacles that we have to face as a world. I mean, there is a war going on there in Europe. There is, not to mention the hundreds of wars that have been going on constantly that don't get as much publicity as this one, but the only thing we can do is believe in a love, that there is an empathy that we hopefully can show each other to be able to build a future together.
Get to the cock.
Yeah, get through all the cock. Intrinsically, we are that.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I know we're running out of time, but just before we go, one last question for. Well, actually, I'll focus on Shamilla and Jaque on this one. You paint yourselves as Robin Hoods. I was just wondering. There's a line even in the film is that it's not a crime to steal from criminals. So, Jaque, Shamilla, is Jaque's troupe the bad guys in this film, or what do you think?
It's such a difficult line to tread, but I mean, because at the end of the day, they are stealing, they are criminals. It is a bad thing that they're doing. But if you look at it in the context of the film, I'm just there's so many. It's such a difficult line to tread because it's yes, okay. Legally, they're in the wrong, but it's where they're coming from. Also, it's they, for generations, they have not been allowed to win, right? So it comes from the struggle that it's there's just no way out. There's always a guy, there is always a CEO, there's always someone that's just gonna give you the door in your face and give you a no. And so to get around that is to steal from the institution that wouldn't give you an opportunity. And yes, it's illegal, but at the end of the day, you're they're insured. So I guess it's okay.
For me, the answer to that question is totally based on whose story is this? This is Jerome and his troupe story. And in his narrative, he is the hero.
They're the heroes.
When we tell the bank story, I'm happy to play the villain.
That is a very good point. I like that.
I love that. Well, and for the record, I was on board with Jerome and his troupe.
Yeah. No, because they are fundamentally the good guys, no matter which way you slice the pie. They're doing a bad thing, but they're the good guys.
It is interesting to see Jerome sort of talk about it and sort of the way he sort of processes it, and he's well, you're a fan of Robin Hood, and it's oh, okay, yeah. All right, fair enough. No, honestly, to you all, the film is absolutely wonderful, and I say that absolutely genuinely too. I had so much fun, and it really is a special treat. So thank you so much for the chance to speak with you, and I wish you the best at the film festival this year.
Amazing.
Great.
Thank
you,
you
Steve.
so very, very much.
Thanks so much. Thanks so much.